Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Marie Brio.
And I'm Heidi Henry coming to you from two socially distant studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we bring you a Facebook Live video of progressive news and views that maybe you can use to guide you through your day and your week ahead. You can find all of our previous episodes at Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com, and Heartland Mamas Unrolled on all of your, um,
Independent radio stations.
thank you, all podcast platforms, and probably part of the Demcast USA network. And don't forget YouTube, where if you smash that button and follow us on YouTube, you can win a free Heartland Mamas t-shirt all this month of May. Or April. Sorry, I forgot where I was. Okay, Marie, today we're going to talk about shenanigans in the Republican Party because I think they've lost their path without their orange overlord. They don't know what to do,
Oh my goodness,
right?
Heidi. I don't know if they. Well, I suppose you're right. But I do question. You said if they've lost their path. Well, their only path used to be death and destruction of
Right,
any of the American dream, and
right.
now they're losing their vehicle to continue that death and destruction. I would say. I think maybe it's
Well,
more that they're losing the vehicle than the path because they're good at just burning shit down. This time they're burning themselves down.
well, I just would like to know, Marie, when is a boycott not really a boycott? Because when you call for a boycott against Major League Baseball, Delta Airlines, and Diet Coke, but you're drinking a Diet Coke and you try to hide it behind your phone on your desk, but you really are drinking it after you have a meeting with Stephen Miller, don't you think that maybe you're not really boycotting Coke? I,
Okay,
I just, I'm just
let,
saying.
let's set that up for a
Trump, we
minute.
see you. Trump, we see you.
We
And we
really
see
do.
your Diet Coke.
We do. We do. And that's the least of the horrible things that we see out of you as of right now. But we just
Yeah,
gotta kind of say, I mean, the absurdity of what we have seen in the Trump administration and now post is a floundering dead fish of nothingness. So,
I
we
know.
started off with,
No.
Trump had created this big program, this PAC organization, very similar to an Act Blue, some time ago, back in
Win
2017.
red. Win
Win
red.
Red, which is what all Republican candidates were encouraged to use. And a
Not
portion of those
encouraged,
proceeds,
Marie.
they were
They
forced
had
to,
to use it. Yes. They had to
as
use
a
it.
revenue generator. And a portion of those
Hmm.
went to Trump. And the
Right.
GOP and Trump had a big blowout over
Calling
this
out.
because the
Right.
GOP, and this is years ago, remember,
Yeah.
they said that money's ours. You're a candidate. You're with us. And Trump said, oh, no, you're with me. And as we progress
Right.
down this road, we see that it hasn't cleared up yet. So I believe the
Nope.
GOP thought, well, when Trump is gone, when he's out of here, maybe we will be able to reclaim our throne. And we saw that the Trump's office of the former President Trump sued the GOP to stop using his image and name in advertising, which
Right.
they couldn't win that. I mean, when does he ever win a lawsuit? But more importantly, the bigger question on the table is he told at CPAC all of his followers to donate money to him and not to
Right.
the Republican Party. Well, the
Right.
Republican Party, the RNC, had a royal hissy fit and then went down and kissed his ring and everything was okay.
Went to Mar-a-Lago. Yeah.
So now you have this party that maybe had a chance to rebuild if they had the financial backing
And they don't.
of donors and corporations. And here's where then as we progress this path, you'll see what's going on. So we have this party who thought perhaps we can rebuild, but what they didn't realize was that Trump was taking that fundraising mechanism away from them.
Right.
And now that the GOP has decided to push these insanely intense voter restriction laws, we see corporations are finally going after enough pressure. They weren't really genuinely doing this on their own. They required a
No.
lot of oomph
No.
to get them off their butts. But they
Right.
said they don't support it. MLB pulled out of the All Star game from Georgia. And this is where we
Hmm.
get to cancel culture. It's not cancel culture, you jackasses. It's capitalism, which is what you embrace. Carry on, Heidi. Please pick it
Well,
up from
you
here.
know, not only is it not cancel culture and it's not corporate cancel culture, Coke knows where its money lays. And it's not with the GOP. Delta knows where its money lies. I mean, Delta is the last airline to not fill the middle seat when you're flying. So people who are COVID nervous that are flying are flocking to Delta because they are ranked as the safest COVID protected airline flying right now in the United States. So people are flocking to Delta. Not a good time to call for a boycott on Delta. And MBL, never been bigger. Never been bigger. And I'm hoping they move the All-Star game to Chicago, and it's looking like it's a possibility. So that would be really nice. But Murray, after the January 6th insurrection, corporate sponsors were bailing from the GOP
Right and
left
left.
and right. They had just had enough. Now you add this in, these restrictive voting rights, and they realize that that's going to piss off a lot of people. You're telling people that is cancel culture. You cannot vote. You cannot have anything to eat or drink when you're in line to vote, and we're going to limit you to 1 or 2 polling places per county. And you can't vote on the weekends, or now you can, but only during certain hours. And if the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, or whatever it is that they pass. And
Right? Yeah, and a fox crawls under a ladder underneath a bridge. As
on the
long as it's
13th,
on the 13th, then you have permission to vote on the election day, but only if you go in person and right. Yeah, exactly. Oh my
I mean,
god.
that's cancel culture, GOP. You're canceling the rights of people to vote.
Now,
Now, Murray and I live in Illinois that bends over backwards to help people get
we
to the
really
polls.
do. We have a great voter program. We've
Yep,
never, well, and sometimes long, long ago they voted twice. They don't anymore. That was a
they
joke.
don't. And I'm not even, yeah, that was a joke. It was a joke to try
It
to
was a
fight.
joke. Yes, it's not real.
Yeah, it's not real.
We may
But
have
it's fun.
crappy, crooked politician history, but the voting multiple times is not necessarily legitimate.
It's
But
not
Heidi, I got to
true.
ask you a question, man.
Hmm.
So, knowing that the people are against these voting issues, corporations went, hey, no, 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 no. And knowing that people were really pissed that legislators started an insurrection, corporations went, no, 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 no. So here's 2 major incidents in the last 3 months that have showed corporations that backing Republican politicians is not the greatest
Yeah,
idea.
it's not a sound financial move. It just
Right.
isn't.
So then let me ask you, how does our darling Senator Mitch McConnell's threat to corporations? Now, Mitch McConnell said corporations had better stay out of politics. Which, hi,
Right.
Citizens United. Anybody remember that little gem?
Hey, Koch
Anybody?
brothers. Hey, Exxon, hear that?
Hey,
Mitch
Heritage
McConnell doesn't
Foundation.
want your money anymore.
Heritage
Yeah,
Foundation.
doesn't want your money. Yeah,
Right. So the
the
only
architect
reason that these
of voting.
corporations, maybe there were some
Yeah,
racist corporations, and I'm sure there's racist board members, but a large portion
Michael.
of what drives these corporations is profit, right? So it's not cancel culture. The reason that they're not sticking with the Republicans who created an insurrection, maybe their execs like it, but it's because of money, right? The
Right,
reason
right.
that they said we're going to leave MLB, everybody's pretty pissed about this, is because of money. So that's the only reason they supported these candidates in the first place, right? Money
Yeah,
is so that they
yeah,
would earn more, have less regulations, be able to charge more, be able to be unregulated and untaxed, allowing them to generate more profit, right?
right, right. Well,
Ungenerated, untaxed, and then Mitch McConnell, and which is why we got Citizens United, so that politicians were
mhm.
happy to accept the input of businesses when they were cutting taxes. And now all of a sudden, Mitch McConnell says, meh.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell thinks that he can control which corporations can sponsor politicians or buy politicians and which ones can't. That's the bottom line, Murray, because otherwise,
So
Otherwise, there wouldn't be any any oxygen for him to even exhale or expel this weird ass rumor about him. Not to mention the fact that without Citizens United, there would be no GOP. The whole reason Citizens United was passed was to fund the GOP, Murray, and we know that. Everybody knows that.
And so, exactly, corporations give money to the GOP, ignoring their reprehensible behavior, because
Right.
they know that the GOP will pass legislation that will give them more money. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
all money is the basic foundation of this. And then Mitch McConnell just tells them, hi, we're mad at you for telling us what to do with politics, as if they haven't been forever, and we're not going to vote any more pro business legislation in if you're not careful. What do the Republicans have other than sex trafficking, child abuse, a destruction of the foundation of the United States of America, except for business? They got nothing. Now they got nothing. You're taking your only thing away, Mitch.
Right.
What is he
Right.
doing, Heidi?
I think he's saying that we need to end Reaganomics. I'm going back 45 years and I'm saying that that's what Mitch McConnell is saying. It's time for Reaganomics to be over. And if you don't do it, he's going to do it for you. I don't know, because that's the equivalent to the
So do you
the
think
bladder
he's
coming down
against
the throat.
Citizens United too?
He must be, Murray. He must have just
Mitch, we
overnight.
want our listeners to know right here on this show, the Heartland Mamas have discovered Mitch McConnell is against Citizens United. He
Again.
doesn't want corporations having any control in politics.
None at all. None at
sorry,
all.
that just
But
cracks me up.
Murray, we have to also talk about what happened with another part of fundraising, which is the can you, how many scams can Trump have going at one time? Because now we went from Win Red, which was a scam, especially if you were a Republican candidate and you weren't Trump, to Trump tricking elderly people, his supporters, into donating
Recurring
to
donations.
reoccurring donations, doubling their donation. People have had to cancel credit cards. They've had credit card fraud reports up the yin yang at every single major credit card bureau. They've had reports to the credit bureau about the fundraising techniques of Donald Trump. He used opaque lettering to cover up the fact that he was bilking them out of thousands and thousands of dollars. We have people that have died and are still paying money to the Trump campaign. Now, Trump came up with this fundraising bonanza when he was in real trouble. Remember, what was it, about August, September last year?
Yes.
He was out of money. He kept pulling out of major markets. He kept pulling TV commercials.
Advertising. He had no money coming in.
He had no money coming in. So he comes up with this scam where I can send out a fundraising raiser to my loyalist contributors, people who have given 20, 30, 50, 100, 500 bucks in the past. But I'm going to use opaque lettering to tell them that by not unchecking a certain box,
It was already pre-checked.
the box was already checked. Not only were they going to double their contribution, but they were signing up to have these contributions taken from their checking accounts weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, in perpetuity. There was no end in sight for this.
Nope.
So like Trump University and Trump Steaks and the Taj Mahal and all the other shitty deals he's ever done, we have this.
Girl, I
know.
know. And we
Every-
still, and not us, but there are still people out there that keep falling for it. But I'd like to talk a little bit about falling for things. And that would be Ginger Lucky falling for Matt Gaetz. Ha! Can we switch the subject here? Now,
Oh my God.
I'm not going to say that when he announced his engagement, I said she was a political prop wife that the GOP creates in a basement laboratory and raises Barbies to become trophy wives for
Where sex
you
is
know.
not part of the occasion. I don't know.
Exactly formal. But we know that Matt Gaetz is bombastic, jackastic, repulsive and
Jackassery.
repugnant. This is the same guy who came onto the House floor wearing a gas mask in the beginning stages of the COVID pandemic,
And
making
cut
fun.
the line. Cut the line to get in front of cancer patients. Cut the line to get in front of senior citizens. Cut the line to get in front of people in nursing homes. Cut the line in front of doctors and nurses to get vaccinated. That's the kind of assholery we deal with Matt Gaetz.
Oh,
So,
oh, yes. It just continues to grow with Matt Gaetz.
yeah.
And we thought it was I realized that something was wrong with Matt Gaetz the beginning he entered the stage. A long history of drunken disorderly, multiple DUIs, cover ups. And long
Yeah.
ago, we learned of the mysterious arrival of his son, Nestor, who no one
Oh,
had ever
God.
heard of, and who apparently was the brother of. I know, right? You never thought you'd see Nestor again. He's back. I wonder how Nestor feels about his new mommy Ginger. Anyway, Matt Gaetz made multiple false comments, multiple false statements, including that he had adopted this boy, that the boy's mother was passed away, that he was an orphan. None of those which were
Yeah.
true. And Nestor mysteriously disappeared. And Nestor was his justification for not being racist because he had a Latin X, of course he didn't use that word, son. And that was his justification. Well, that became problematic for many people concerning the fact that Nestor was underage and that he had appeared in multiple pictures as you dug back in history. And little we know that there is strong conversation going on in Florida legal circles talking about the impending indictment for Matt Gaetz and the Florida voter dude, the Florida tax collector, and sex trafficking. And the story just keeps getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
But
And
Matt
oh,
doesn't back down.
No, we only thought Nestor was Matt's pool boy, like Franklin Graham as a pool boy. Honest to God, I thought Nestor was just the pool boy, and we're trying to pull some Republican
No,
shenanigans. To try
I
to
thought
kill
Nestor was an affair he had with an underage girl that produced a child, and his parents were paying to keep her quiet. They were
Unless
keeping
he did
her on the DL and the child because of his father's power and influence.
Really, that's how
Yeah,
you
and I thought
put
it was a love child. I thought it was a young love
Really?
child. Yeah, but it turns out maybe he was just being trafficked, like all the other children Matt
Oh
Gaetz
my
decided to have sex with.
God. Oh my God. I think that that's the saddest part. It's like we could, the the thought of laughing at the hypocrisy is so squashed by the sadness that children were harmed in this. That there
Can
were
we go
children
back to
trapped.
2017 in Mr. Gates's life for a moment?
Sure.
Before his miraculous sobriety and love of his life, Ginger, and his newfound son, Nestor, there was a bill on the floor of Congress that was to end child sex trafficking, to stop, to be able to enforce it, which the bill passed and it's done a lot of good. But he was the only member of Congress, the only Republican member of Congress who did not vote for that. And he claimed that that was just too much oversight.
You know what? I remember that vote, Marie, and I remember you and I talking about it, and that was before we had a podcast about how strange it was that a bill that's easy to get behind to protect
Bipartisanship, which everybody wants to scream from the roofs.
and
Why?
and
Why would you not? It makes me wonder why, again, Governor Greg Abbott in Texas denied the child sex trafficking legislation in Texas. If you recall,
Right.
we did a show on that a while ago, and
Right.
the story was he had worked very closely with the House and the state Texas Senate. And they worked
Yeah.
real hard together on this trafficking bill that would take children, minors under the age of 16, who had been trafficked or found to have been victims of sexual assault and prostitution, were not going to be charged as criminals. They were going to be treated as victims. And he denied that bill. Kind of makes you wonder. I'm just saying.
I'm just it's Texas. That's all I've got. Texas and Florida. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I just keep
So
thinking
how long?
about.
What's the over under on how long before Matt runs? He decided. Remember, out of nowhere, he's like, "I will quit my job in the House of Representatives," and that
Oh,
was what,
Donald Trump. Oh,
once Biden won.
he said that he was going to quit his job in the House to defend Trump on the floor of the Senate.
Right, he was going to
That's
be
what he
his
said.
lead defense
So
attorney for the
I
impeachment.
think I think even then he knew. Well, he knew that poop was going to hit the fan really
Of
soon.
course
He
he
knew
did.
it. But,
All
and
of
I'm
the
still
legal circles in Florida knew that this was out there, that this was being investigated, these
right.
charges were serious, that the DOJ was holding on to them. Of course,
Yeah.
that struck terror in Matt Gaetz' heart that there would be a new administration that would allow those charges and investigations to continue. And for him
Yeah.
to stand up there and pretend like some hyperinflated Ken doll baboon that
Right.
his family is the source of some extortion. Dude, you got caught. You've been caught 1,000 times with your pants down. You
This time,
showed
this
pictures of
on the House
women on the
floor.
House floor to your colleagues, of women you'd slept with naked, inappropriate pictures. What more do you need, Kevin McCarthy? You
Yeah.
waiting to have a picture of him with a 17-year-old or a 12-year-old? For
Well,
Christ's
he would
sakes, the GOP's in the
no.
shitter.
Kevin McCarthy would just defend him. He would just defend that
Exactly.
position because that's what Republicans do. And you know, there's nothing more disappointing than a Republican that cannot read even a soundbite, Murray. Because
Oh, God.
Tom Cotton felt that we are majorly under incarcerated, his words, not mine, in the United States. And here's the
We.
truth of the matter of that, Murray. Per capita, the United States leads the world in incarcerated people. We are ahead of El Salvador, Rwanda, Thailand, Cuba, the Maldives. We are ahead of Turkmenistan. And how many
Oh,
people we incarcerate per
yeah.
100,000?
You know
And for some
why?
reason, well, because of for-profit prisons
Money, money,
and
money.
and racism, and because we have a disproportionate amount of people of color behind bars, and we have a
People
disproportionate
of a low economic background behind bars. And
right.
here's the thing, our education system is designed to only
Mhm.
allow 25% of people who go through it to be successful. The rest are to be consumer worker bees. And of
Right.
those, we expect that 40% will end up in the prison population because that is one of the largest industries in the
Right.
United States
That's
is
how that's
for-profit
how
prisons.
people make their money. And those for-profit prisons also became incarceration zones for people entering the United States illegally, which we did a show on
Oh,
already.
can
And
I just say I think Tom Cotton has a point, Heidi. I
yeah,
might agree with Tom Cotton. I think we need a hell of a lot more people incarcerated. And that includes all of the backstabbing, lying, cheating people who were involved in the previous administration that allowed hundreds of thousands of people to die because of false information covering their own asses. Who would, even our little friend Emily at the GSA, let's send her to jail. And as we saw, there's just been a Hatch Act violation and a fine for one of the low hanging fruit. So I expect to see far more coming down the pipeline. So Tom Cotton might be right, quite honestly. We do need to put a lot more Republicans in jail.
yeah, I think that that's the deciding factor, Murray. Right now we're sitting at about 560,000 people dead. And we know that had we taken mitigation seriously, had we taken COVID-19 seriously a year ago, a little over a year ago, we would have 80 to maybe 100,000 people dead, which is still a staggering amount, but not as staggering as over 500,000, approaching 600,000 people dead and dying and sick, and some with permanent, issues that they can't ever recover from. Not to mention the fact that we're going to talk about this Thursday, Murray. The skyrocketing numbers, especially among the variants in the United States. Hello, Michigan. You are on fire right now on
Oh,
higher.
And one of the more alarming things is that we have recently found a new virus that they have in India that they believe is
Yep.
responsible for an explosion of cases, which shares the same mutation as the
Right.
UK, but it has two spikes. It's the first time we've seen a variant have two spikes. This is not good. This is not good.
No.
So we'll
I
be breaking that down for you on Thursday
on
on our
Thursday. I
live
mean,
show.
I I'm fully vaccinated now, a week.
I
And
got a
Marie
week before my second shot.
and my husband got vaccinated yesterday, so he's, counting down to that 2 weeks. I You know what, people, we've got to grow up and act responsibly for our own health and for the health of our communities. This is ridiculous. GOP, this is part of your ridiculousness because the biggest group of people not getting vaccinated, white male Republicans.
Yes, girl. And young people, because they need to be doing that too since the cases are rising, and we'll talk about that. So the GOP
Well,
you could finally
yeah,
do something right
yeah,
by standing up to Matt Gaetz,
yep.
by saying no to corporate control, but they won't. They'll go back to their sniveling, usual. I gotta go back to McConnell. It's funny. He's trying to hold companies hostage. Are you kidding me? Go for it, dude. It's a win-win for everybody. But I just
I
want the Republicans to do the right thing. Get a damn shot. Keep places closed. Cases are rising. They're affecting kids now. And maybe stop being so GOP-ish. Is that possible?
could the Republican and assholery just go together. They just are one and the same. And
Jackassery.
Jackassery, assholery, mask holes, whatever. And we talked about mask holes last week on last week's editions of Heartland Mamas. And the problem with that, Marie, is our economic recovery is tied to us recovering from COVID, from preventing the spread. Now, I can see maybe their argument is we want Biden to fail, so let's make more people sick and die, right? Because that's the only logic here. You know, I I'm just, my brain is just like on overload today with the stupidity I've had to absorb studying for this show, you know?
It was a rough one. Sometimes, folks, our shows can take the best of us out of our brains. And that's why I have an amazing partner like Heidi, because when my brain is like, are you kidding me? Heidi's like, it's okay. Yes, it's all screwed up.
Yeah.
And that's why you love us. And that's why you tune in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because we give it to you straight, unfiltered, no bull. And sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't. I don't know. But we hit you up today with the Republican Party and the absolute utter chaos that it is, and that it is going nowhere fast, which is kind of delightful.
It has
But we
no
record.
purpose and no
None.
plan.
So we are live Tuesdays and Thursdays on Facebook at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. You
A
can
little
also
late
catch
today.
a little late today. You can also catch our longer episodes going into deeper dives on topics we've covered wherever you get your independent radio at Heartland Mamas Unrolled. And you can find all of this as well as a link to our YouTube so you can subscribe and win a t-shirt at Heartland Mamas.
MAMAS.com, part of the Demcast USA network. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Sorry we were late. I was busy. So see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.